Have you ever wondered how a winery can be the scene of such bitter betrayal? Well, my friend, the story you're about to hear isn't just about fermented grapes and red wine. It's about dark secrets bubbling just below the surface. Get ready, because a widow in trouble and a reclusive marquis might just change what it means to fight for survival. The moonlight streamed through the windows of the old Beaumont winery, casting dancing shadows on the worn walls. Helena Beaumont watched her property with growing anxiety. The scent of the grapes, which once made her dream of a bright future, now only reminded her of golden days slipping away like wine that would never be made again. The failure of her harvests and mounting debts weighed heavily on her. If she didn't get a miracle in less than a week, she would have to sign a contract that would seal her fate. The proposal from Baron Mercer, despite the whispers around town, felt like a lifeline. He wanted to marry her, and in exchange for her land, he promised to help her save the winery. But deep inside, a frantic voice warned her that something was off. Mercer didn't seem like the man who would offer her safety and happiness, especially with the rumors swirling about him, particularly among the old friends of her late husband, Alfred. The lonely nights were filled with conflicting thoughts, but morning was coming, and the urgency was crushing. One night, lost in her worries, Helena heard the voices of the servants, chatting after dinner. Without meaning to, she crept to the half-open door of the living room, where a group of men was talking in hushed tones. She pressed her ear to the door to listen better. "Mercer is a cancer. I can't believe he got rid of Alfred so easily," one man said, his voice heavy with anger and worry. "And now he wants the Countess's land? This is more than just ambition, it's a plan." Helena's heart raced. Hearing her late husband's name hit her like a punch. What had they done? What he did was terrifying. Whispers talk about an accident, but I know it wasn't like that. He wanted Alfred out of the way. "The Countess is in more danger than she realizes," another replied, his voice shaky, as if they knew their words could be deadly one day. Helena could barely breathe. Had the Baron gotten rid of Alfred? He was a criminal, and what looked like a promising alliance was turning into her ruin. Alfred's face, with its always sincere smile, now mixed with a sea of worry, as she heard words confirming all her fears. Baron Mercer's offer was turning out to be a trap. With her mind clouded by rage and despair, Helena knew she couldn't stay there. The only way out now was to run. But where would she go? She had no more than a scrap of fabric in her fine clothes. The fear of being hunted by Mercer was real, but staying meant a slow and agonizing death. Determined, Helena ran to her room and packed what little she had. A few dresses and some jewelry, knowing she couldn't take it all. The thought of leaving her winery broke her heart, but life with Mercer could be even worse. Anything was better than feeling the Baron's grip tightening around her throat. With her heart racing, Helena hurried down the stairs. At the door, she paused. What else could she do but follow her heart? Freedom was waiting, while her promise to Mercer turned into a nightmare. In a quick decision, she gathered all her courage and dashed toward the woods surrounding her property, not stopping until she felt like her life was finally in her hands. After running and dodging, she reached the neighboring estate, the home of Marquis Damien Blackwood. Known for being a mysterious war veteran, he had spent most of his time in seclusion after the war, living in the world he had fought to protect. To many, he was seen as a beast, but maybe, just maybe, she could find shelter in his solitude. As she got closer, she looked around, fearing Mercer might be on her trail. The air was thick with tension, and her anxiety bubbled inside her. She hesitated at the door, her heart pounding. The weight of her past hung over her, resting on the choices she made in this dark moment. When she knocked, vulnerability washed over her. She might be stepping into another uncertain fate. The door opened a moment later, revealing Damien Blackwood, tall and cloaked in dark fabric, scars visible in the moonlight. His gaze was sharp, questioning. He didn't greet her with words, but his eyes seemed to ask, "What do you want, woman?" There she stood, speechless and unsure, but desperate for safety. Helena couldn't know that while danger lurked behind her, a new chapter was beginning in the Marquis's home. A man seen as a monster by many could be her savior, or just another hurdle in her already tough journey. Two fates crossed beneath the pale moonlight, and a silent understanding passed between them. But what lay ahead? Time was running out. If Mercer found her hiding place, there would be no escape. The urgency to uncover the truth about Alfred pushed her to act, even if it meant risking everything. "You're running from something," Damien said coldly, though a hint of doubt lingered in his voice. Helena took a deep breath. Desperation and determination shone in her eyes. "And I need your help." Damien's gaze on Helena was intense, filled with distrust, as if she were a puzzle to solve. The woman asking for help wasn't just another burden. She stirred something deep inside him that he had long tried to bury, a desire to protect, a longing for connection. But the scars he carried, both seen and unseen, reminded him that getting involved in others' lives could lead to more pain than rescue. "Why should I help you?" he asked, keeping his voice low and stern. The guilt of being affected by her presence only made his coldness more apparent. Helena hesitated. Those dark eyes, so intense and watchful, seemed to search her soul. "I'm in danger," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Mercer isn't who he seems. He killed my husband." Silence fell between them, a thin veil that held back their words. Damien took a deep breath, unable to ignore the seriousness of what she said. "And you think I, a man known as the Beast, will protect you? Why didn't you go to your husband's men?" "Because they don't believe me," she replied, desperation rising in her voice. "And I have no one but you." The warning echoed in Damien's mind. If she was telling the truth, Baron Mercer was dangerous. Unwillingly, a thread of compassion pierced his hardened heart. "You can stay here tonight," he finally said, letting down his guard just a little. "But you need to stay away from the windows. We can't risk Mercer finding out you're here." Helena nodded, a mix of relief and fear flooding her body. The hope and determination that sparked in her soul now felt fragile. Her temporary shelter was a small flame in a storm, but she knew she couldn't stay hidden for long. She needed a plan to regain her dignity and find the proof she needed. The days that followed were tense. Damien watched her closely, but in their exchanged glances, there was a hint of curiosity. Helena organized her things and adjusted to the routine of the estate, trying to be both helpful and discreet. She took care of the small garden around the house, an activity that stirred many feelings. The touch of the earth, the smell of fresh herbs and flowers, brought her a peace she hadn't felt in a long time. During those moments, they began to learn a bit about each other. Damien shared stories of his time in the war and the battles he faced, not just on the field, but within himself. Helena, on the other hand, spoke vaguely of Alfred, avoiding the darker details, but focusing on the beauty of their love and how her life had changed in just a few months. A shy light began to grow in the darkness surrounding them. Their conversations, though often about trivial things, helped ease the tension between them. Still, Damien wondered if he could fully trust Helena. He was so afraid of being deceived that he shut himself off from any vulnerability. This struggle felt like an open wound, desire and fear battling side by side. One morning, while tending to her little orchard, a sudden movement caught her eye. Damien stood at the door, watching her, muscles tense under his linen shirt. Helena stopped, her heart racing. "What do you want?" she asked, trying to keep her composure as her eyes searched his. "We need to talk." His voice was firm, yet almost gentle. He motioned for her to come closer. The seriousness in his tone reminded her of the urgent action that was needed. "About what, Damien?" "About Mercer. You know this hiding won't protect you forever. There's a ball at his mansion in a few nights. It might be our only chance to find out what he's really capable of." Helena narrowed her eyes, the idea buzzing in her mind. It was risky, but a new plan began to take shape. "You want me to go to the ball? That's like walking into a trap, Damien." "Not everyone at the ball will side with Mercer," Damien shot back. "Some might actually care about what happened to your husband. If you can find the journal, you'll have the proof you need." His words wrapped around her, and even with fear still lingering, a spark of courage flickered inside her. "Then I need your help. I can't do this alone." A pause hung between them. It was a moment where trust and doubt blurred together. Damien studied her, the silence only broken by distant sounds of nature. Finally he relented. "I'll be by your side. We'll make a plan, but know that trust doesn't come easy for me. You'll have to earn it." A smile crept onto Helena's lips. Their plan was dangerous, but it felt like a step forward from the deep pit they were in. With the rising tension and the desire to help in their voices, a connection began to form. With the wooden floor creaking beneath their feet and moonlight guiding their way, there was no turning back. Determination would lead them to Mercer's ball. The thought of leaving that night with the journal in hand filled Helena's mind. She knew this was the only way to break the cycle of distrust that surrounded them. In a place where danger and betrayal walked hand in hand, the chance to change their lives was drawing near, all at a ball marked by doom. The days leading up to the ball at Baron Mercer's mansion flew by, each hour a mix of hope and fear. Helena and Damien locked themselves in deep conversations, mapping out what could be their only shot at the truth and maybe the freedom they craved. "How do you plan to present yourself?" Damien asked one day, adjusting his coat, his expression distant and focused. "You need to be convincing, but not too eye-catching." She stared ahead, picturing herself under the spotlight. "A simple dress, maybe in shades of blue. Something that shows I'm not there to impress but to feel comfortable. But this event needs more than just a simple dress." He looked at her, his gaze intense as always. "If Mercer has something to hide, it might not be safe. I remember you mentioning the life you led. He'll want information." Helena frowned, thinking about his words. "What if I disguise myself as a maid? I could blend in and seem less suspicious." Damien shook his head slowly, weighing the risks. "It's a smart idea, but there are drawbacks, Helena. You need to be ready to deal with Mercer and his men. Don't trust anyone." With all the worries swirling around, the tension between them made the air feel electric. They had hours of courage, but also unspoken words hanging in the air. One night, as they talked, Helena's hand found Damien's on the table. His skin was warmer than hers, and that simple touch created a fragile moment. "Damien," she began, hesitating. "Why do you hesitate to trust me? I'm a woman in real danger. You know I'm on the run, and the risks I'm willing to take." Their eyes locked, and her vulnerability echoed in his silence. "It's not that I don't trust you. I've spent years with people betraying me. I can't just forget that." "I get it, but every day we spend together is a chance to break that cycle." The honesty in her voice made Damien tilt his head, taking in her words. A spark of something deeper began to grow between them, a shared hope. But the ball loomed over them, as dark as a storm cloud on the horizon. When the day finally arrived, Helena woke up under a grey sky, anxiety pounding in her heart. She dressed in a calm blue dress, the fabric falling gently but modestly on her figure. With a bit of nervousness, she looked at her reflection in the mirror. "Be strong," she whispered to herself, a silent mantra to hold back the storm inside. When she reached the gates of Mercer's mansion, her heart raced like a drum. The ball was a grand event, dazzling enough to make her eyes burn. Crystals hung like stars from the ceiling, and candlelight created dancing shadows around the guests, dressed in silk and velvet. The soft music floated in the air, but for Helena, each note was a reminder of what was at stake. "I'll be at the front door, but you need to give me a sign when you're near Mercer's office," Damien said, his face serious. His words brought out the fear they both felt in the midst of the party's joy. "If it all goes well, I'll find the journal, and once I have the proof, everything will change," Helena replied, though uncertainty wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. Damien nodded, a subtle way of encouraging her. She walked through the hall, taking in the curious looks from the guests, each one more intriguing than the last. She tried to act normal, but with every step, the feeling of being watched weighed on her like a heavy blanket. Deep down, the image of Mercer and his dark intentions sent shivers down her spine. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and she could tell he sensed every beat of her heart. The greetings and small talk were the distraction she needed, but not for long. With a careful move, her stomach tightened as she spotted a discreet door leading to a hallway. "This is the moment," she thought, and with that, the words spilled out of her mouth with suffocating determination. "I just need a moment. For Alfred and for me." She slipped away from the chaos of the ball, inching closer to Mercer's office, when a sudden movement in the crowd made her stop. A familiar figure. Mercer was chatting animatedly with a group of guests. Helena's heart raced, her mind racing to find the best way to act. But there was no turning back now. The office was close, but danger surrounded it. Damien's signal, something that would calm her, was just a few meters away but at risk. Since that night under the stars, something had grown between them, but doubts crept back in. If she went back to Damien, she might be seen, but she urgently needed to find the truth. In a burst of courage and desperation, Helena chose a small hallway, where the space grew tighter. That's when she felt something behind her. The safety she'd felt was gone, and someone was watching her. She turned quickly, her eyes wide with fear as whispers filled the air. Mercer's men surrounded her, and there was no ignoring that time was running out. With every move she made, fear swallowed her whole. What once felt like strength and courage now hung by a thread, depending on her bravery and precision. Seeing him again would test not just her intentions, but their hearts too. Helena stopped, her heart racing like it wanted to leap out of her chest. Mercer's men were just steps away, their faces blank, but their eyes full of suspicion. Adrenaline surged through her. and she felt each breath weigh heavily. If capture was her only option, her chance to find the journal and expose Mercer would slip away fast. "She's here." A man's voice sliced through the air, and Helena felt a knot form in her throat. She couldn't hesitate. With an almost instinctual push, she slipped into the side corridor, waiting for the group of men to break apart. Looking back, she spotted Damien in the distance, talking to a guest. The bond between them felt stronger in that moment. Even wrapped in uncertainty, the sounds of the ball faded, as if the music and laughter were just distant echoes, while her mind focused on the mission. Damien's words about trust echoed in her thoughts. She needed to trust not just him but herself. What she had built in the past days was a fight for her own freedom, a bold step against what Baron Mercer stood for. "Go down that corridor. The office door is just a few steps away," she whispered, almost like a prayer to remember the plan. Taking a deep breath, Helena ran. She reached a darker space, away from curious eyes. The scent of lavender and beeswax wrapped around her, a warm contrast to the tension in her mind. The office door stood out like a glimmer of hope, but the distance felt like it grew with each heartbeat. A moment of weakness made her pause. What would she find inside? Was the journal still there, or had Mercer hidden his actions? With renewed determination, she moved forward, ready for anything. The doorknob felt cold under her fingers, and the world around her grew quiet. With a gentle push, the door opened, revealing a luxurious yet dark space. Books lined the shelves, a large map of the vineyards hung on the wall, and an imposing desk in the corner was cluttered with papers. If the journal was there, it would confirm Mercer's dark intentions. Helena moved carefully, each step echoing in her mind as she dug into the papers that seemed to hold the life of a clever man. She hated what she knew about Mercer, yet she wanted to understand her enemy. The desk was covered in documents, and she began to flip through them cautiously. Time was running out. Each page was a risk. There were mentions of business deals, transactions, and even letters to other lords. But these records seemed like something her husband would have found hard to ignore. She needed the journal, not bits of evidence that wouldn't help her cause. Feeling close, her eyes landed on a decorated wooden box. With trembling fingers, she tried to open it, but the lock wouldn't budge. The weight of reality pressed down on her. The Baron could already be looking for her, and she might not get another chance. A shadow passed by the door, and her body froze in fear. She took a deep breath, knowing she could be caught at any moment. The sound of footsteps grew louder, and panic started to rise. Helena glanced at the window, but escaping that way could be deadly. Mercer's men were all around, likely searching for her. Determined not to give up, she lunged for the desk, pushing the box aside, searching for anything she could use as a weapon or a way to escape. Among the tangled papers, something caught her eye. It was a notebook. Come closer, she thought. The Baron seems to have strange values. But before she could read more, she heard the door swing open. Without thinking, Helena grabbed the notebook and hid behind the long curtain of the window, letting the shadow wrap around her. The footsteps echoed on the wooden floor, and her heart felt as heavy as the curtains covering her. She watched Mercer enter, his face tense. The determination in his expression was a dangerous sign. "There's no way out, Countess. You shouldn't have come here," Mercer whispered, his voice low and cold. She held her breath, listening to every word as the Baron rifled through the desk, his frustration growing. A primal instinct took over her. The thought of returning to Damien and piecing together what she knew grew stronger. She needed to be clever and stay on the move. In that dark space, she wasn't just looking for proof of Alfred's murder. She was fighting for her own safety, and her connection with Damien felt more important than ever, like he was the anchor keeping her afloat in the abyss. Still hidden, she waited until Mercer stormed out, his face filled with rage, his words ringing in her mind. "You still won't prove anything." Helena made a silent plea. If only some sign could reach Damien, he could save her in whatever way was needed. The tension in the air was thick, and Helena knew she couldn't be the only one alert. The ball could explode at any moment. If Mercer was in this mood, he wouldn't hesitate to use his power. She needed to know if Damien was safe and if anyone would be willing to help her. "I will stay strong," she thought. "When the moment comes, I'll make every step count." And with the notebook holding the truth, she prepared to leap into the crowd of guests, determined not to let Mercer's dark corners swallow her whole. Helena stepped out from behind the curtain, clutching the notebook tightly under her arm. The call for freedom and truth ignited in her chest, filled with untold promises. As the ballroom buzzed with music and laughter, she blended in with the guests, each smile hiding a silent threat. The glow of the lanterns lit up faces and outfits, but her eyes were locked on the office door, the one place that might hold the truth she desperately needed. Taking a deep breath, she moved through the crowd. The silk of her dress brushed against her legs, thickening the tension with every step. But what worried her most were the eyes on her, like predators watching their prey. Among them, Mercer's gaze burned. He knew she was there. When she finally reached the office door, her heartbeat echoed her determination. Helena slipped through the crack, inhaling the scent of polished wood and old papers. In the corner of the well-kept room lay the journal she longed for. It stood out sharply against Mercer's cold business papers. As she made her way to the desk, a sudden noise froze her blood. Mercer was back. "Still here, Countess?" he sneered, his face twisted in contempt that ignited a fire in Helena. "I should have known you'd try to uncover the truth with your weak documents." With no time to waste, Helena lunged for the desk, snatching the journal and flipping it open, searching for the passage that would reveal the Baron's treacherous plans. Each word was a step closer to freedom, and with every line she read, she felt the weight of her burden lift. A creaking noise interrupted her reading. She turned quickly and saw Mercer advancing, fury shining in his eyes. "You won't get away with this, dear." Helena grabbed a letter opener from the desk, holding it firmly as adrenaline surged through her. Was she really ready to fight this man? "I will expose you, Mercer. No one will believe a monster like you. Remember your dead husband," he shot back, slamming his hand on the table to intimidate her. "You think they'll listen to you now?" Determined, Helena felt that this moment was more than just a confrontation. It was a chance. "Your crime won't be forgotten, Baron. I will make the truth known." Outside, a storm began to roar, heavy raindrops pounding against the windows, as if nature was joining her fight. Mercer, furious, lunged at her, and a clash felt unavoidable. But a loud clap of thunder broke the heavy air, causing both of them to hesitate. Helena darted to the side, dodging the Baron's attack. The letter opener was now in her hand, a symbol of her fight against the man who wanted to destroy her, but would not defeat her. The dark clouds seemed to shift with her spirit, and she was not willing to fail. Mercer's rage was tangible. He wanted to control her, to crush any hope left in her heart. As she moved like a shadow, Helena realized time was running out. The music and party continued, but her mind was focused on how to win. When Mercer tried to grab her again, he shoved Helena against the wall. She gathered her strength and, with a courage she didn't know she had, slammed the letter opener into the table next to him. "You will listen to me, Mercer. The night isn't over yet." He paused, the cold metal reminding him of his own weakness. But there was no time left. She had to escape and find Damien. With a quick leap, she dashed out of the office, slipping through the hallways. The sounds of the party echoed around her, but the Baron was right behind her, determined to catch his prey. Her thoughts raced to Damien, wondering how he was handling things outside. Every corner posed a threat, but hope kept her warm inside. Outside, the rain poured harder, wrapping everything in a thick fog. Fear crept in, but her determination grew stronger. Helena couldn't just hide. It was time for the final blow. With courage, she pushed through the main door and spotted Damien waiting for her, rain soaking his hair. He was focused, his gaze intense, ready for anything. "Helena!" he shouted, relief and worry in his voice. "Where have you been?" "Mercer is coming. He won't stop, Damien." That was all it took to spark action between them. "We need to do this together. The party is at its peak, and we can use the distraction." "Let's expose Mercer," Damien said, his voice steady, making Helena's fears fade. Thinking quickly, they joined the festive crowd. While guests danced and laughed in the ballroom, the tension of a truth about to be revealed hung in the air. They were at a turning point, and every step toward the stage was a step toward securing their future. "Now," Damien whispered, holding Helena's hand tightly, "step up and share what you know. Mercer won't escape this time." She nodded, her heart racing with renewed hope. With a firm gesture, they entered the ballroom. The lively atmosphere suddenly fell silent as everyone turned to look at them. Helena's words came out heavy but strong as she locked eyes with Mercer. "Ladies and gentlemen," her voice sliced through the air, "today I have a secret that must be revealed." Outside, the rain continued to pour, but Arthur Mercer couldn't look away. He was trapped, just like the men protecting him. Helena had the power of truth on her side, and this time no one could silence her. "You can't do this! This is betrayal!" Mercer shouted, but the shock of her revelation had already taken hold. Faces around the room showed disbelief and anger at the hidden crimes of a man. "The documents I have here prove that you caused my husband Alfred's death. You only wanted to take my lands. And I won't let your story of fame grow among riches and secrets." Shock filled the room as friends and guests confronted Helena's words. Thunder and lightning echoed outside, and the voices turned into an unstoppable murmur. It was time for action. As Mercer tried to twist his way out, Damien stepped forward with determination. "Enough, Mercer. It's time for you to face the music," he challenged, ready for a confrontation that was needed to bring comfort and protection to the truth. The swords glimmered like lightning and the air grew tense. The guests seemed frozen, the outside world fading away as they waited for a resolution. Damien lunged at Mercer, but Helena wondered if words could be stronger than a sword. "Damien, wait! We need to expose him, not get lost in a fight," she shouted. With a swift move, Damien halted his sword, blinding Mercer, and the space became a place where only the power of truth could win. The proof in Helena's hands would set the story right. Under the shocked gazes, Mercer lost his grip. Every word from Helena rang out in the grand hall. A murmur spread, and the truth settled over everyone. Time was running out for Mercer, and the path ahead looked like a deep pit with no way out. "I'm right with the evidence. My empire doesn't need blood," he yelled in desperation, but the crowd's voices washed over him in condemnation. It was undeniable. Without trust, without tricks, the fight changed. Helena looked around at friendly faces. This audience of supporters wouldn't turn away. It was time for freedom, and Damien's love calmed her nerves. Mercer's fear deepened in the dark pit. "I refuse to give in to your control," the Baron shouted, but Helena's voice boomed back. "You've lost. Power isn't about weapons, it's about having the truth on our side." At that moment, the crowd's murmur turned into applause, each clap and cheer breaking Mercer's strength. The ground beneath him began to crumble as he found himself surrounded by those who once followed him. Then, with a clever move, Damien stood firm, and Mercer's servants and allies caught him in his own trap during this drama. "Power and blood don't define a man or his business, Mercer. This is your story now, and you can't escape this time," Damien declared, ready to lead. Helena felt free as the fate of their oppressor grew weaker. The stormy kiss of love between them held the promise of the future, a future set to bloom in lush vineyards. Determined and strong, Helena claimed what was hers. That day, not only did the truth win, but a bond was born. Love, respect, and the dream of a thriving winery. And so, the tale of the widow Countess Helena Beaumont and the Marquis Damien Blackwood ended in victory. From the truest and strongest love that could exist, shadows faded, and life in the vineyard would flourish in a scene of hope, celebrating a love that was here to stay.